In the last section, we took a first stab at our Docker file to build out this Node.js project, but we very quickly saw that during the run npm install step, we got an error message that said npm not found. We're seeing this error message because during step number 2 right here, where we try to execute the command npm install inside of a temporary container, there is no copy of npm available. We're seeing this because we are using Alpine as our base image. Remember, we had said that we select our base image based upon the collection of default programs that we need to successfully build our image. By default, Alpine is a very small image. It's only about 5 megabytes large, and so it has a rather limited set of default programs included inside of it. In fact, I kind of like this diagram right here. What programs are included in the Alpine image? Well, this is supposed to be a tumbleweed of sorts. Not much. So there's not a whole lot of stuff going on by default inside the Alpine image. You get a couple of very default Linux or Unix programs. You get that package manager that we used just a little bit ago, but that's pretty much it. You don't get a lot of other stuff for free. So when you are using the Alpine image and you expect to run some fancy web application depending upon Node.js or depending upon Ruby or Java, chances are you are going to have to do some additional fixes or some additional setup to get this thing working. Now, to solve this issue, to solve the issue of npm not being available inside of our base image, we have 2 options. The first option is to find a different base image. We can try to find a base image that already has Node and npm pre-installed inside of it. Alternatively, we can continue using the Alpine image and run an additional command, like right here, to attempt to install Node.js and npm inside of our image. So 2 approaches. We can either essentially use someone else's work, or we can try to build up our own image from scratch. In our case, we're going to try using someone else's image. We're going to find an image that has already been configured to have npm pre-installed inside of it. So to get started, I'm going to flip back over to my terminal, and we're going to navigate to Docker Hub, which you'll recall is a repository of public images that we can easily pull into our build process. So I'm going to open up a new tab and navigate to hub.docker.com. And then on the top bar, I'm going to find the Explore button. You'll see a listing of very popular images immediately appear. And so, of course, right there is Alpine. We're going to scroll down a little bit. And a few options down, you'll see Node listed right here. If you don't see Node listed on here, you can always do a search up here at the top left-hand side. And we're essentially just looking for the repository called Node, and it should have a little subdescription of official. So we can click on this. We'll get a short description right here. Now, the description in this case is not super helpful. It says, oh yeah, Node.js, here's what it is, but well, what are we really downloading? Like, what is this repository? This repository is a Docker image that has Node pre-installed on it. So if we want to, we can attempt to build our image based upon this Node one. And this Node image already has Node pre-installed, already has npm pre-installed, and so we don't have to worry about getting more errors like this, where npm is not found. Now, before we just go and use Node willy-nilly, I want to show you a little bit more inside this description. So you'll see this full description panel right here. And then first section in here is supported tags and respective Docker file links. So this is a listing of all the different versions of this image that is available. You can get different versions of Node.js encapsulated in each of these different tags. So for example, if I have an application that requires Node version 6.14, I can find the tagged version 6.14 right here. And then inside of my Docker file, when I specify my base image, I can say Node, and I can specify the version of it specifically by adding on 6.14. So this will give me an image that contains a pre-installed version of Node.js, specifically version 6.14 of Node.js. Now in our case, we don't want version 6.14. Instead, I want you to scroll around just a little bit and you'll eventually see one tag in here called Alpine. You might have to do a Command F search for Alpine, and you'll see that, well, yeah, there's a lot of examples on it on here. So here's Alpine right here. I want you to remember this is a tag, so this is not the name of the repository. So when you see Alpine right here, it doesn't mean that we're supposed to use like Alpine like we were just before. The first word right here is the name of the repository. You place a colon, and then you put down a tagged name. And so in this case, when you see Alpine right here, it means that we can optionally select node:\Alpine. So now you might be curious, why would we do this? Like, what is the purpose of Alpine being tied onto node? Well, Alpine is a term in the Docker world for an image that is as small and compact as possible. Many popular repositories are going to offer Alpine versions of their image. And an Alpine version of Node in particular means that you're not going to get a bunch of additional pre-installed programs. So the default Node installation might include extra programs like, say, Git or a package manager or, I don't know, some fancy text editing tools inside that image. When you get the Alpine version of an image, it means you're getting the absolute most stripped down version of that image possible. So it's going to essentially have Node.js and pretty much nothing else. It will have some very basic programs like, say, the ping command. Maybe, you have to look at the actual image to figure that out, but it might have the ping command. You'll have, say, cat, maybe a simple text editor, ls, simple programs like that. But in general, you're getting a very stripped down version of that image. So for us, the Alpine version works just fine because essentially all you and I need is Node and NPM. And NPM is included in this Node image right here. And we need absolutely nothing else. So we are totally fine using the Alpine version of the Node image. All right, so with all that in mind, now that we've made the change to the from right here, we now have specified a base image that hopefully is going to include NPM inside of it. And I can tell you it definitely is. This is going to have NPM pre-installed. We're definitely good to go. So let's now try to rebuild our image with this change and see if that error message goes away. First things first, do make sure that you save the Docker file. And then once you save it, we'll flip back over to the terminal and do a docker build dot again. All right, so now you can see that we're downloading the new Node Alpine image. We then get down to step number 2 right here, where we run npm install. But very shortly after that, we get a series of error messages, and the first of which says, no such file or directory, package.json. So the package.json is a file that exists inside of our current working directory. But it looks like the container is complaining that, hey, I don't have this file available. Like, where's the package.json file? I need this to know which dependencies I need to install. So let's take a quick pause right here. We're going to start to investigate why we're seeing this error message.